Hello, this is episode 3 of Hobby Positive Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. So today I get to sit down with Charlton, Eavy Mental Ealth, and we're going to be talking around the hobby, some of the positive, but then also some of the other aspects of the hobby which may not be so positive. Before we get stuck into it though, this episode is sponsored by your generosity. Eavy Mental Ealth is fundraising for Calm, the campaign against living miserably. And this is such an important charity for helping men's mental health. You can go to justgiving.com and search for Eavy Mental Ealth. That's a bit like heavy mental health, but without the H on the heavy, without the H on the health, right? Or you can click the link in the description, whether this is on YouTube or Spotify. Now, it's a cost of living crisis, right? So everything is more expensive. But rather than just buying that bottle of paint, why not donate that money to Charlton's fundraiser? Every single little bit really does help. Now with that, let's get on with it. Welcome everybody. I am Ant from Ant's Positive Paints, and here today with me, I'm very fortunate to be joined by Eavy Mental Ealth. Hello, Eavy Mental Ealth. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Eavy Mental Ealth, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you are very present on Instagram. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what people can find on your Instagram page.
Yeah, so I think I would probably describe myself as an average hobbyist, especially with painting. But yeah, make a lot of reels surrounding mental health issues, things like that, and just trying to be funny. Sometimes it kind of comes across differently, but yeah, just upload painting pictures, tutorials, just all the kind of general stuff that you can find when you scroll through Instagram, really.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, that's it, really.
And Eavy Mental Ealth, right? It's really, really clever Instagram handle, by the way.
Yes.
I've got to say.
Yeah,
really
thank you very
clever.
much.
I like it. When I see it, I'm like, I kind of get what you're about, actually.
Yeah,
It kind of says it in the name.
It just clicked one day. I got back into the hobby and was thinking, it'd be nice to kind of make a dedicated Instagram page to uploading the pictures and reels and things too. And I was just thinking of a name, and I was trying to think of something that would be catchy and that people would recognise. And with the whole heavy metal painting scene and the history behind that and the play on words and stuff, and I just thought it was a good way to kind of tie the two things together. So
yeah,
that's where it come from.
Definitely. And the whole mental health aspect is something that I don't think we'd probably talk about enough. If anyone experiences mental health issues, how open are we at talking? And so that's what this episode is going to be about. We're going to be looking at mental health. We're going to be looking at some of the aspects of the hobby. So miniature wargaming hobby, where mental health, where there's a lot of support for mental health in there, where it can be a real benefit to anyone's mental health through these different aspects of the hobby. We're also going to look at some of the trappings, some of the things that you might want to look out for and be careful of, be mindful of, that could cause a negative effect on someone's mental health. So mental health can be a sensitive topic, okay? So if you feel like you could be triggered by any of this, then please advise, we are going to be talking about mental health. We won't go into too much detail about it and some of the impacts and symptoms of mental health. So we won't be going into the detail, but we are still talking about mental health. So it's something to be aware of, and you can turn off now, and that is absolutely fine.
That's your disclaimer.
That's my disclaimer.
Just to be safe, just in case, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there where I haven't necessarily been in the headspace, and people have been talking about something, and I haven't been ready to really listen about that. And I found that I come off of it feeling a little bit kind of, it brings up feelings. It brings up kind of, it takes you back to a place where you thought you'd moved away from. Yeah. So again, it's when experiencing mental health, I've had experiences of mental health myself where it hasn't been particularly on top form. I'm in a good place now, I like to think. And I know the positives that I have had from the hobby as well. Yeah. So I think it's an important topic, and I don't want to shy away from any important topics, but we are going to be talking about it in a fairly balanced way.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
okay, before we kick into it, anything else from yourself, Eavy Mental Ealth? There's a lot of rhyming going on in there.
There is. It's not start rapping now.
Yeah.
No, I think we'll get into it when we start talking about the topics that we've got kind of, written down. But yeah, it's going to get quite deep. But
Okay.
I think we'll be all right.
We'll be okay. We'll be okay. So I know there have been sort of studies that I've seen going around. I was looking the other day about the power of creativity
Yes.
for mental health.
Yeah.
The power of socialization for mental health and talking to people and not isolating oneself. So I just want to cover some of those probably key aspects of a mini wargaming hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of cover the first one and we'll try and step through them. This is not exhaustive, but it's some of the main key aspects. So first off, when it comes to collecting,
Yeah.
okay, there's all these really lovely models, shiny models, right? Big tanks, guns, and scary monsters, and collecting them can be quite exciting. You get a new model coming out, and you get attracted to it, right?
Yeah.
So have you found yourself kind of collecting some of these models and building up a pile?
Yeah, 100%. My current pile of shame is what everyone calls it, but I try to flip it and call it a pile of potential because
Exactly.
I'll get round to it eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of growing at a quicker rate than what I can actually churn them out at. So it's like the thing is that so many good models are released so quickly, like back to back. You're constantly seeing something and going, that would look really good, or I really want that, and as soon as it's released, you buy it. And it kind of gets added to the pile, and then before you know it, the following week there's another new model or another new box set comes out, and you're like,
Yeah.
I can't keep up. I'm buying them all, and not actually getting around to doing them.
Yeah.
I've just had it recently with just finished one of the knights that I brought about 2 months ago, and I've decided to buy another one and 2 armigers to go with it, and it's like, why do I do this to myself?
Yeah.
But it's like that. I don't know. I think it comes from a good place because you really want them, so you buy them, but then you kind of sit back and think, and you're like, my bank balance took a hit,
Yeah.
and now I've got to look at the box for a couple of months before I get around to
And
actually
it's
doing
just
it.
staring at you.
Yeah, it's
like,
always there.
why-
Corner of your room.
You chose me. You picked me. You bought me.
Yeah.
Why aren't you using me?
It's just in my head, I've got weird sketches of little grey unpainted miniatures screaming pick me please. Just in the corner, never being touched. But yeah, I think it can definitely be a something that becomes a more of a collecting thing than the creative side. You can get stuck in that kind of loop of just buying and not getting around to it.
Yeah, and it's quite nice to collect and you think, okay, well, I've got this unit here, or I've got that model there and that tank, and it kind of helps me to kind of build a nice looking army, or it just looks cool and I want it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think, and that's great, and you can have those things and you're building up that collection, because some of these models go out of production, and that's a thing. But actually, if you're building that up and not choosing to do anything with them, if you're collecting them for the sake of collecting them, that can be quite detrimental to your mental health as well, can't it?
Yeah, I think, like I say, you can get to the point where you've got so much backlog of miniatures that you want to get through, is that it seems like a chore to actually sit down and do them, and then that kind of steers you away from it, and you could get home from work or whatever it might be and have some free time, and you look at it and you go, oh yeah, no, I can't be bothered. And when you get to that point where that kind of the fun gets drained out of it, that's when I think you've got to kind of draw the line and say, I'm not buying anything else.
Yeah.
Because if I keep going that way, I actually never get around to doing it, and it could end up, me falling out of love with the hobby or not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Which I did get to a point like that a little while back, kind of went all in with orcs, and eventually got round to getting them all painted and stuff, but it was just like a good few months of just staring at them I guess I'll just paint 30 orc skins, and then tomorrow night I'll do 30 pairs of orc trousers brown. And
exactly, yeah.
It's just,
it's just kind of being aware of the fun that you get out of the hobby.
Yeah.
So whilst I like kind of getting that tank because I think, oh yeah, actually now I'm thinking about it, that it's going to be good with my army that I'm building, and I will get round to it eventually. And I saw it at a good price, so I might as well pick it up now and get it at a good price because I know the prices are going to be going up.
Yeah.
So there is almost that kind of fear of missing out.
That's it.
That they
Big FOMO.
They like to get you with. I mean, it is a marketing tactic.
Yeah.
Because they're there to sell models. But sometimes you have to just take a reality check and actually, rather than just buy there and then, try and stop yourself and think about it and, leave it 24 hours and see if you absolutely
really
definitely need it. If you definitely need it.
I had it recently with a bit of a similar thing, but it was more like the nostalgia of a box set. And it was last year actually, but it was like the first set I ever had when I got into Warhammer as a kid. They'd done a reprint of the set, they re-released it for a short period of time, and I was like, I've got to get it.
Was that the Assault on Black Reach?
No, it was the Battle for Macragge.
Oh, Macragge, yeah.
And that was my first ever set, and there's so many memories there around like being a kid and building them, and my dad helping me spray paint them and stuff, and things like that. And I was like, because I don't have the old set anymore. I got to a point where I don't know what happened to all my old miniatures. I don't know if they got thrown out or given away, or I just don't know where they went. And I was like, I really need to get this set because I think it would be really nice to go back through and build them and paint them and kind of re-feel some of that feelings from like childhood. I say that it's still in the box under my bed. Do you know what I mean?
Because it is that. Yeah, it's limited print. I'm gonna get it.
Like, do I open it? Do I do it? I don't know. I've done is took the lid off and looked at it and gone, oh, I remember them. I remember that bit. Like and it's like that's as far as it got.
Yeah.
So
totally. And I've had to be ruthless as well. Like, and it takes a lot, you know, because I would have a cupboard just full up. With boxes, thinking, oh well, that's kind of cool, and the models look really good, and I'm going to get around to painting them at some point. But I'm not going to.
No.
And I've sold quite a lot. I've sold quite a lot off just because I think I'm never going to get around to painting that. When the Sisters of Battle, when they first came out as an army, was it 8th edition? It was 8th edition. I got the box set and all of like the limited edition codex and everything. Loved it, but it just sat in a box, and so someone else can make better use of that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and I can give it to them, and I'm not going to do a markup on it. I'm going to sell it to them at a fair price, because I am not going to make any use of it.
Yeah.
So
it's doing no good for me sitting in there collecting dust when someone else could really want it or need it and would use it. And I'm definitely kind of I've had it before with miniatures. I've brought them, I've built and primed them and gone, don't want to paint that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've either give it away or I've sold it to someone or whatever, and it kind of brings me a bit of peace. I'm washing my hands with it and getting rid of it, and someone else is going to have a good time and be able to paint it and enjoy it. So that's a good way to kind of get yourself out of that situation if you do feel like you've got too many models.
Clear out the clutter.
Just go through, be cutthroat with it, and just, am I going to paint that in the next 6 months? Am I not going to paint that in the next 6 months?
Yeah.
And just part with it.
Exactly. It's it feels really good to do that.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I've been getting rid of loads of stuff recently. Not necessarily hobby related, but I had like hundreds of PlayStation 2 games.
Yeah.
I'm never going to need them.
Yeah.
I'm never going to play them. Why do I need them?
Yeah.
Give them someone who really genuinely will enjoy them and treasure them, because I'm not going to throw them away. It's not like the great VHS purge of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what do we do with these VHS tapes now? DVDs are the way forward, and now even DVDs.
Now DVDs are non-existent.
Exactly. So you mentioned the making, right? And I find some great mindfulness when it comes to making the models. There are these instructions that you follow.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about the next instruction. I'm just on this instruction now, and I can snip the little pieces off, and I can glue them together, and then I get a model out of it.
Yeah.
That's incredibly peaceful. Is that what you get out of it as well?
Yeah. My favourite part about the hobby is the building and painting phase. Less so the actual gameplay. But yeah, I think it's like Lego for adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a conversation with someone the other day. It was actually really, I'd never thought about it this way, and it was to do with the price of models in Warhammer, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might be. And he was comparing it to Lego, saying that the value for money for Warhammer is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's expensive, but that's a different thing.
Mm.
Lego is expensive. Certain sets, you're talking £700-800.
Oh yeah,
for
Hogwarts,
Star
hello.
Wars stuff and things like that, and it's like you build it, it goes on a display or in a shelf or in your spare room where no one sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the Warhammer stuff, yes, it's expensive as well, but you get to build it, you get to paint it, you get to play a game with it, you get to enjoy just looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
There's more aspects to that, which when you look at it, you might say you buy a box set for 80 or 90 quid, but there's so many different ways to enjoy that box set,
Yeah.
and longevity of it, which is great. And yeah, the building side of it is very therapeutic for me. Like you say about just you zone out, you sit there at your desk or wherever, and I normally have music on in the background or a live stream or something on a podcast, whatever, and I just zone out and I'll just sit there, flicking through my book, cutting them off, filing them, gluing them, turn the page, and it's just like that process, and it just kind of takes you away from everything else, and you just, I don't know, you just get lost in it, sort of thing.
Easy to, and you can stick a podcast on in the background or some music, and I find that an incredibly peaceful way to spend, an hour or so in the evening.
Yeah.
You've finished work, you've had some food, you've said hello to family, and you can then just zone out and just forget
down and just,
exactly everything that's happened in the day. You just forget about it, and I'm just following this step,
and it will be there the following night for you to go back to. And, you know what I mean? There's no time limit on having to get them. Obviously, if you're trying to build an army the night before you've got a competition, that's a different story. But they're things that you can go as fast or as slow as you like with, and it's just very therapeutic.
Most definitely. Yeah. I suppose some of the other aspects of it, though, something to be aware of, I always find, and this comes into a little bit, right, but comparisons, I don't do a lot of conversions with my models. That's how they are, and that's how I make them.
Yep.
And that's totally fine. Some people don't like doing that. Some people like to kind of make all sorts of weird and wonderful concoctions and, grab lots of little models from the bits box and grab some kind of, cardboard or some, millipart or green stuff.
Sculpt some extra bits on.
Exactly,
And I think to me, that's like a whole different hobby in itself.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact that I haven't got the imagination to be like, this is what the box art says, but I want it to have an extra arm or whatever it might be. It's like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And the people that do sculpt and that can do it very well and can kit bash and stuff, hat off to them, because it's actually brilliant, what you can do.
Yeah.
And that, like I say, that can be a whole different hobby in itself, and it can take hours and hours and hours to get there.
Yeah. I just sometimes it kind of makes me feel, if I think about it too much, it kind of makes me feel a little bit like just vanilla. Like, am I boring? Am I not pushing myself?
Yeah, just by following the instructions.
Right?
But I think I also have a fear of messing it up.
Yeah.
And then, with the monetary value of the thing, it's like, I could do something cool with this, but what if I mess it up and then it's just, I can't salvage it? There's a fear there as well.
Oh, I definitely hear that. Yeah, because it's a financial investment, right?
Yeah.
And the amount that you might spend on a model, if it's a big kit, for example, then, you could mess it up, and then you've got to try and repair it. Are you going to repair it, or do you get a spare part off of eBay or something? And there is that fear, definitely.
I recently, if anyone looks at my Instagram, I had a bit of a hoo-ha with the knight that I built. I basically glued its body and its legs on the wrong way around, so that its back end was where its front junk should have been.
Right.
And I didn't realise until I was up late building it, and I must have just not paid attention properly. And I posted a reel, and someone commented, and they were like, "I think you've got the legs on the wrong around." And by the time I got round to looking at the comment and going back to it, the glue had set.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is going to require a lot of patience and some major surgery to kind of cut this thing apart and correct it."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that reinforced that fear of just do it how you should. Do it as the book says.
As the book. I want to end up with a model that is made rather than a model that I've got to be more frustrated with to try and salvage, right?
It got to the point where I looked at it and I was like, oh God, I was trying to fix it, and I was like using some green stuff and like milliput and sculpting it and trying to get it back to how it was, and I was so close to just going, just get rid of it. I'll get another one to start again. I was so close, but I kind of stuck it out, and it's okay. It's as good as I think I can get it to look. But just had some battle damage and weathering, and that'd be fine.
Right as rain.
Yeah.
Right as rain. So about the kind of creation and of this, so you fear of actually getting it wrong. Is there almost like a perfectionism, do you think, there that maybe needs to be checked, or?
Yeah, I think partly that, yeah. I think there's definitely for myself, there's a thing of that if I want to do something, I want to make sure that it's as good as I can do it. We both briefly spoke about social media and the negative effect of comparing yourself to other people or your miniatures to others, and how damaging that can be to your enjoyment of the hobby. And I'll put my hand up because I've done that in the past. I've looked at someone's paint jobs or models, and I've kind of been like, that's really good, and mine's really bad. Like it's hard.
Easy to, isn't it? It's
easy
to think that way.
It's demoralising to a certain degree. But I think you just got to remind yourself, you really have to take yourself away from looking at the other pictures and just be like, this is my model, not their model. I'm painting it, not them.
Yeah.
This is the best that I can do.
Yeah.
This is how I want it to look, whether it's a different painting technique or style. The big debate of like non-metallic metal paint versus just buying a pot of silver paint. I will always pick silver paint because I haven't got the time or patience to try and do any fancy techniques. But yeah, there are some great painters out there and they're brilliant, but you don't always have to be kind of putting yourself on a pedestal with them.
Definitely. Yeah. It's kind of comparing yourself to yourself, right? Which is why thoroughly, advocate for not repainting your miniatures. So those miniatures that you start out with, actually just kind of keeping them there.
Yeah.
Because it's a record. It's a record of where you've come from.
Yeah, definitely.
And every single time you paint something, you're going to be kind of growing your skills, right?
Yeah, and like the more you do it, the better you get. It's simple, like that's how it works. And I have got a few models from when I was like 10, and they're awful. But that's fine. I was 10.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't meant to be good at painting, and I enjoyed them just as much back then painting them as I do now, and spend more time on painting now. But you can't compare them. You can compare them in the fact of like saying I've progressed this much and I'm now I'm decent at painting, or I'm alright at painting, or whatever. But you can't compare and look back and go, oh, that's rubbish. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a tricky,
and it's subjective as well.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of straying from the making to the painting, but I think it's important to kind of talk around the subjectivity of it. Something that I see that I like, and I paint something and I paint them in the colours that I want. I like that, and it's me. Another person might look at that and think, that's rubbish. Why have you done it that way?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of critique and judgment is sometimes not helpful, especially if we're looking to share these models with others and hopefully inspire other people to say, look, you know what, you might have only just picked up a paintbrush, but that is cool. You're absolutely doing better than some, right? But then social media again, right? Sometimes if we're not
can have a really
careful,
horrible twist to it.
Yeah.
People being, online trolls and stuff, just hating on you and whatever it might be. But I think you just got to do what you want to do, and do it your way. Like enjoy it, and just. That's the thing with posting stuff online, is that you put it out there to the world, and you're not in control of what gets thrown back at you. Do you know what I mean? People can comment things and say things or whatever, and 90% of it might be good things, and people saying that it looks good or whatever, but you've got to be prepared for that 10% that could be.
Yeah.
I don't know how you are. Swearing?
I can bleep it out. I can bleep it out.
Bleep out, yeah.
Yeah, when I publish it, it's always like explicit content.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay.
But it's fine. You can swear as much as you like, because I'll just bleep it out.
Okay, cool.
Literally, like, fuck. Absolute fuck. There you go. Don't worry.
I've got it out now. I'm all good.
It'll be beeped out. But I think you mentioned NMM, right? Non-metallic metal, and all these other techniques. It's like NMM, TMM.
I don't know what half they mean.
Yeah, I know, right? And it's OSL is another one. Don't forget about OSL. And sometimes that can be incredibly overwhelming when people are saying this, and you're like, I've got to be able to do this technique, and I don't know how to do it, and I'm starting off doing it, but it looks really bad compared to someone else's who've been doing this technique for years and years and have painted hundreds of models that way. I think it's just kind of snapping it back, isn't it, and realizing and going, okay, I'm running my own race here.
Yes, yeah, it can be daunting. I recently looked into getting an airbrush. Yeah. Which, the thought of it, I don't want to do it. But I feel like from seeing certain paint jobs online and, colour gradients and things like that, I'm like, I should really give it a go, because it could be great, but I know for the first however many months, it's going to suck, I'm going to hate it. The maintenance of it, the cleaning of it, all the other stuff, I just think I'll just stick to a paintbrush and a pot of water, because it's easier and it's what I know. And for somebody new starting out, if they were just to scroll through Instagram or Facebook or whatever it might be, the amount of good paint jobs that they'll see and all these different techniques and styles and the brushes that you need and the paints you need and the varnishes and the glosses and all these things, it'll blow you away. Yeah. Like, you can't go in and be straight at the top pro level and have all these things. Otherwise you wouldn't enjoy it. Start
out with the cheapest of cheap brushes. Yeah. And then as you gain more confidence, you can then start stretching out. Synthetic brushes are perfectly fine. Yeah. Don't feel like you've got to go into kind of, the sable brushes, because they hold their point longer and they don't bend and flick and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be spending £25 on a brush
to ruin it in the first
just to ruin
day.
It. Exactly.
Because that's probably what's going to happen. To be honest, I do it now. Like, I've got some brushes that I've brought. Got some Artis Opus brushes and stuff that I've brought, and I haven't used them yet because I'm so afraid. I'm like, I don't want to mess it up or ruin it because I brought it or whatever. And it's like, I've got others that do they can do the job, but they're like just kept away for a little while.
They're the special brushes,
for the right moment.
But then there is that pressure, isn't there? Really, I mean, there is A, the financial outlay, and B, that kind of I don't want to mess them up. They're very special, and I know I got like a set of the dry brushes for Christmas one year, and I was like, I don't really want to use these until like for really, really like special occasions, and then suddenly I was like, no, come on, they're there to be used. I'm just going to use them, and to be fair, they do clean up really, really well. And I think the guy's probably done some videos on how to clean brushes and whatnot, and just get them back to where they need to be. And it's like that sometimes takes the fear away.
Like a little cleaning kit, which I've got, and it's brilliant. Like, even like for not their brushes, just using it on all your brushes in general, like, it's brilliant and it does help. But just thinking about that and like, having the brushes set aside because you're scared to use them, it kind of ties in with the whole collecting side of having all these miniatures.
You get them and you don't.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same sort of thing, and I think it's easy for this hobby to fall into that, because I've got certain paints that I'm like, oh, it's old and I don't want to use it because they don't make it anymore, or I don't want to break the seal on it or spill it or whatever it might be. It's really easy to fall into that kind of trap of just hoarding, I guess, to a certain degree. Like,
it is, isn't it? Yeah. Because I think there's so many different things that you can think about, which I love about the hobby. I can be doing some work and then suddenly I'll walk the dog and suddenly I'll get this idea and think, oh yeah, wouldn't it be cool if I could get this particular paint and then put it over this particular kind of base, and then I'd also need this other paint. And I've been so guilty in the past of actually buying 3 of each paint that I need because I don't want it to suddenly go out of production. Because like for Tyranids, I feel like, I've got a recipe.
Yes.
So I'm just going to buy 3 lots of the blue, the pink, and 3 lots of the wash as well to go with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, did I need to do that? Probably not.
I guess there might be some sense in it as well though, because with like batches of paint, they could potentially have a different batch and the colour could be slightly off. You never know, which is throwing a curveball in there.
They could be.
You never know.
If I was competition painting and I wanted them all to be exactly the same.
I'm going to buy 5 tubs now because I'm scared.
Exactly. This is it.
My yellow's not quite yellow enough.
This is it. But I think because it's any creative endeavour, such as painting something, there will always be an element of fear, I think, when you first start out. And that's cool, that's natural. And then you get a bit more confidence when you kind of know your skill. But I think if you don't want to push yourself beyond that limit, if you don't want to get into airbrushes, if you don't want to get into all these other techniques, stippling and glazing and wet blending, and you don't have to.
No.
Stick with what you've got, right? If you're enjoying it.
You look back at some of the original Games Workshop painters and the old school guys and the way they painted. None of these things were being done back then, and some of them still to this day stand by the fact that they have never used an airbrush. They only use a brush because that is how you paint.
Yeah.
With a brush. Like it's proven that works and people have done it for a long time. So don't feel like you need to jump in and start going crazy with all these wacky techniques and the equipment and stuff, like,
because it can turn into a money pit, right?
Yes. Yeah, which is why partly I've not decided to go down the airbrush route at the minute, because it's a big investment. I don't really know much about it, and the risk is just I don't want to do that.
And you know what? You don't have to.
No, that's
it. You like, and this is it. It's a hobby for you, not for trying to impress other people, not for trying to, seem big and really skilled and trying to get to the top tier.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you just want to paint models for the love of it. If you want to play games, great. If you don't want to play games, absolutely fine. If you only want to make them and base coat them, that's totally fine as well.
Yeah.
This is a hobby for you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't have to. There's not a criteria that you have to hit. It's just do what you enjoy.
Yeah.
To what level you enjoy. And
absolutely.
Don't deep it too much.
Just take the pressure away.
Yeah, that's it. That is it. Yeah.
And then there's playing. Let's not forget, you make models. Look at your face.
Yeah.
You make the models, you paint the models, and then you can play.
And then you play.
You play games.
And people take it really seriously sometimes.
That's some of the aspects that potentially could throw a lot of people off. So I'm going to start with the positives though, and that playing the game, there's a ton of rules, right? Which again can be overwhelming.
Constantly evolving.
New
codexes, new rules, new games.
You know what? A codex is printed, the rule book is printed. If you want to just use the rules as they're printed, fine. Competition play, absolutely different kettle of fish.
Yes.
You're going to need to keep up with it. But if you just want to play some fun games with your friends and just show off your cool models, no, totally fine.
You can play an old edition.
You can literally go and pick up 8th edition.
Yeah.
And don't play with the Overwatch rule, which will make the game substantially better than 9th edition.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's what I liked. But I find that the socialization aspect, the fact of meeting friends, I've met new friends as a result of wanting to play a game. Scary the first time, because you meet these people and you're like, what if I get the rules wrong? What if someone laughs at me or constantly berates me because I'm not playing it right? Am I going to piss them off?
Yeah. There's definitely a group of people out there who are very diehard and play the game to that level, and they're all in, they're invested, and it's like, you have to do it right. We have to measure everything to the perfect millimetre, movement, whatever it might be. And like I say, for someone who's either getting into the hobby or returning to it after a break and they're not up to speed, that will scare you away, 100%, and takes all the fun out of it. It's just one of them things where if you're going to do it, if you do it with someone that you know, because you know how they're going to react or how you can, how serious it's going to be, if it's with a stranger or someone for the first time, whatever, maybe try and set some rules before the rules,
Yeah.
before the game starts, just so you can kind of say, well, I'm a complete noob. I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I need help, and please don't curb stomp me.
Exactly.
That's it. I've been back in the hobby for just over a year, roughly ish, and I've played one game.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it, but that's as far as it went. I like you say about learning the rules and what's good to play with and what armies are great and stuff. It's a big investment for when you're already spending a lot of time building them, painting them, and the rest of it. And that's probably the aspect of the hobby that I enjoy the least.
Mm-hmm.
That's...
And again, that's okay. You don't have to play games with it. It's like it's your hobby and you can do what you want with it. And there's the positives of playing games, socialising. But if it really doesn't appeal, that's totally fine. There are some other kind of aspects of the playing of the building armies, like you said, trying to work out what configurations work well with others.
What counters that well, and what's like meta at the minute. What's the best thing to play, and that to me that just feels as if it takes all the fun out of the game.
And certainly, like 8th and 9th edition was a lot more to do with the points, because you would have it felt like there were just lots more options that you could use to use points in your favour or not in your favour, whereas it kind of feels like it's a bit more stock now. So, it's this weapon or that weapon.
Yeah.
Rather than, well, you could have this weapon and it will cost you 20 points. If you want this weapon, it will be 15. But then you can also take this shield and it'll be like an extra 10 points or something. And it's like, this is way too much for my head to take.
Yeah.
And that's why they kind of introduced the, oh my God, what were they? They were standard points. Rather than points, they were, oh God, I was going to rack my head now. But in 8th and 9th, they had them where you didn't have to worry about the points cost of individual weapons and armour and everything. It was just, nope, that's it.
Like a flat.
It's a unit.
Yeah,
but
flat
because they don't use them now, it's like, that's a distant memory.
Yeah.
But that can be quite nice. That can be quite, I find that it's alone time. It's a time where I can actually think and go, my opponent is going to be taking this particular type of army. So I can research it and find out, well, what's good? What do I think they're going to be taking? I know they've just bought this cool model, which I know they're going to want to have got painted up and bring. So I've got a little bit, I know what they're going to use there.
Yeah.
What's going to combat that? What configurations can I use? What strategy and tactics can I use to combat? What if they did go around the back? What if they kind of launch in on kind of strategic reserve on turn 2, for example? How can I counteract that? And I find that kind of, it's the strategy rock paper scissors sort of thing.
I mean, it's like strategy gaming. It's a big thing, and that little bit of time that you invest into thinking all those things and planning your approach to the game is what will actually probably make the game better. Because if you were to turn up completely clueless and field whatever army you field, and like you say, within the first turn you're off the board, your game's done.
Yeah.
If you've got something that's a bit more balanced and a bit more equal, and you're back and forth and it's kind of tight, it's more enjoyable. Yeah. Because it's competitive, but it's not to the point where it's like, I've won, you're rubbish. You've
got to get that balance.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get. There's not I don't think there's an exact science for it. You have to feel your way quite a bit.
At the end of the day, it's on the roll of the dices.
It's a dice game.
It's all luck.
It is, as much as you want to do it, you
can't.
You play the best strategy in the world, but then you actually roll
ones.
Yeah,
you can't help that.
Exactly.
Is what it is. So that's the nice part of the game, and I like the idea of like all these like big tournaments and like people that are like pros and dedicate their lives to playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
But their roll luck is rubbish.
Exactly. or they have to use toilet dice in order to win. The toilet dice. But yeah, there is that kind of, and I think what I really like about something else I like about the game is those moments, those real kind of moments. Like me and Guy have done the battle reports before with Jeff the Gene Stealer, where he seems to be the last Gene Stealer alive and always makes his saves.
Yeah.
It's like he's got like a 5-up invuln and he makes it.
Yeah.
And it's like a big kind of, I don't know, Gorkon or something trying to smash him. And it's like, nope, I've just made my
It's really
invuln
cool
save.
because there's probably a lot of people out there that have a quirk within their game or within their their friendship group where there's a model that kind of seems to be the lucky one, or it's got a funny backstory to it or whatever, and that's really cool. It's like what makes the hobby cool. Do you know what I mean? It's like a different thing. Like you play a video game, for example, the campaign's the campaign, and once you finish it, that's kind of it. The characters are preset.
Mm-hmm.
They're made by the producers and developers, whatever. Whereas with these games, it's like you can have your own little story and your lore behind a certain character, and if it always rolls ones, or it's like the unlucky model or whatever it might be, which is really cool. And just we were talking about obviously like the pros of the actual gaming and how that is a good thing is that it gets you around other people, whether they're strangers or not. It gets you, with the mental health side of it, and the other stages of the hobby, the building, the painting, are always the ones where you're kind of alone doing it.
Yeah, you're right.
You're in your bedroom, or you're in your office, or your shed, whatever it might be. your little man cave, and you're painting away, and you're on your own. And it's like the gaming part of it's where you kind of break away from that, and you meet up with someone, or you go to a local club or whatever, and you talk to people, and you're in a different environment, and that's a really good, like, positive thing about the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And you just like, you're talking, chatting, shooting the breeze. And for me, as a man, I find I don't tend to talk about my feelings too much with other men.
Yeah.
It might just be me, but there is this taboo with it. And, do I really want to burden a friend with how I'm feeling right now? Yeah. But I think having a game around you that you can actually talk around, you've almost got something else. You're not like,
it's like an icebreaker.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's like we're meeting up to play this game, and we're going to chat, and things just come out, and you talk about things. And the thing about like feeling like, oh, I'm going to burden someone with how I feel or whatever, but sometimes it only takes you saying that one sentence of, oh, I've had a crap week, or I'm struggling, or whatever, for them to then open up. Yeah, because they're probably more likely than not in a similar situation, or have had a similar thing where they're like, yeah, I know how you feel, like, and that can be, that one sentence can be enough to kind of really help someone. Let's say like save someone, you never know. It could be enough to that one thing of them being able to like open up and say, yeah, I'm going through it at a minute.
Yeah.
Because like you say, I don't know what it is with men, but we're just kind of programmed to not talk about it.
Yeah.
I think it's just through generations of men being men, and men don't cry, and that stuff. And I've literally got tattoos that say boys cry too, and all sorts of things. And it's like, we're in 2024. Surely by now, after millions of years of being on this planet, we can open up.
Definitely.
And chat about things, because it's so important.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest thing that I think needs to be, it needs to be broken down, and like the taboo needs to be broken, and everyone needs to just talk about how they feel, because life's too short. Just talk about it.
It's like it
just really took a turn just then.
No, it's cool.
Like, it's a massive, like, I get really passionate about it, and I really like trying to help people and talk about it. So people message me, and I'm just like, I'm there kind of fighting for them as well, and trying to help people and stuff. Like, whenever it comes up, I'm like, just talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, and if you feel like you can't talk about it, you're either with the wrong people, because you kind of know what their reaction might be. They might be like, oh, just man up, or it is what it is. But it is what it is until it isn't.
Yeah.
So just surround yourself with people where you feel safe enough to talk about it and get it out, and you'll feel a lot better.
Definitely. And I think something like this hobby that actually gives you that mindfulness time, it could be that there are people there within that hobby community that also are in it for the same reason as you might be in it, for that mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
So there could be some people there that really do understand and do get you in terms of how you're feeling. And you got to talk, right? Okay.
You can bottle things up for as long as you like, but at some point something's going to burst, and whether that's, I don't know, anxiety, depression, self-harm, there's a big umbrella, all the things that fall under mental health. Like, you can only go so long before you've got to give yourself a break and just get it out. And like, most of the people that I've kind of come across within the hobby have either been through similar things or, you know, can relate to it, and they've spoke about it like to me, which is great. I said to you, obviously, I feel like I'm no expert. Please don't hold it, hold it against me. I'm not going to like, you know, can't give you all the right things to say and stuff. But it's nice that people can reach out to you as a stranger and feel safe to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the power of your branding, right, as well, because it's there. It's like, it's open. It's not like kind of, it's hidden away.
I would lay it all out on the table, and I've spoke about things on reels and like in comment sections and messages and all sorts, and I'm very open with it now and talk about it, because I just think one person might see that and go, oh yeah, like I can be open and talk about it as well, and like I say, that could be enough to help someone or save someone. And even if you point them in the right way of a charity that offers help or helplines, whatever it might be, like it's so important just to be nice to people that are in need.
Yeah.
Like I had people that were nice to me when I was in need, and I feel like I owe it to them to now do that for someone else.
Sure.
Like passing it on, paying on the favour sort of thing. Which is like the whole branding of the page is paint minis and have a good time and just be nice and help people. And if anyone needs to message me or wants to message me, go for it. I try my very best to reply, but most days I will get a message from someone, and I've made some really good friends online just through conversations about how rubbish life can be sometimes.
Yeah.
And we just get chatting, and I recently went up to Warhammer World and met up with a couple of guys who I'd met through Instagram, who have been through things in the past or currently going through things, and it's just so nice to finally meet people in person and just put a face to the name and just connect with someone. And
even like having a hobby hangout, right, as well. So you don't have to play the game to socialise, but just meeting people.
Yeah, just you could just go and get coffee.
Yeah. Or
go for a walk. Like it hasn't got to be sitting at your desk painting or playing a game. It can be anything just to get you out of your own head. Which is really helpful. And that one of the main reasons for me getting back into the hobby, probably not the main reason for getting into it, but what's come from it is that it's given me like a really nice inner peace. Like when I do it, I'm so calm and chill.
Yeah.
And I forget about everything else that's going on until it gets to like 3 a.m. and I'm like, got work in a few hours. I should probably go to bed now.
How many monsters do I have in the house?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh god, I should buy shares in Monster. I think with the amount I've gone through, like on late nights painting and stuff.
Favourite flavour?
I really like the white can, the Ultra Zero.
Really?
Yeah, I think because it's zero sugar, I feel like it's not that bad. But
well,
the peach one's quite nice. To be fair, I'd drink any of them.
The Monster Zero.
Yes.
Really nice. It tastes more like Monster, because Ultra was the only kind of sugar-free one.
They now do the original, didn't they?
They now do the original. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's another addiction.
I mean, working out can be an addiction as well, right?
Yeah,
there are many things that can be an addiction.
Warhammer, tattoos.
Warhammer. But then that's the problem, right? The addictive side of Warhammer, the plastic crack, as it's called.
Yeah.
It's knowing when to actually stop and say, is this actually benefiting me? Am I laying awake at night stressed about the amount of money I've put on my credit card buying Warhammer models and paints and airbrushes and paintbrushes and terrain features and battle mats and box sets?
Yeah, I would hate to see a total number, like if you were to try and go back and work out what you'd spend.
Oh, in a lifetime?
I reckon I could buy a house.
Yeah, but it's like the thing with
so
like
scary.
cigarettes, though, isn't it? It's like, well, if you saved every single penny from smoking a pack of cigarettes, you'd be able to afford a super yacht now, with compound interest. But I mean, Warhammer. If it brings you in a peace, if it supports your well-being, then a-okay.
Yeah,
a-okay. But start off in your own way. But there's also, we've covered off some of those trappings just to be aware of, just to be mindful of, not to fall into.
Yeah.
There are the positive sides, but there can be some not so positive sides. Overall, I think the wargaming hobby, I think, is incredibly beneficial to one's mental health.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like I say, we've looked at the pros and the cons of it, but I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons. Being creative, getting your mind going, the meeting up with people and just getting out of the house and the distraction from life, and there's so many good things that come from the hobby, and I think that is definitely outweighs the negative.
Definitely.
And if you don't do any of these hobbies, then you should.
Absolutely.
It will help.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Even if you just try it, give it a go, because I feel like a lot of people, this is another thing with like Warhammer, right? That everyone's like scared to be the nerd.
Yeah.
That does Warhammer.
I was going to mention that actually, like this stigma, because we were talking earlier, weren't we, about you come in as a child, like as a teenager maybe, and then you phase out of it because, adolescence and alcohol and whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And then you kind of find yourself coming back into it. But it's still that fear of like, if I tell my friends I do this...
Are they going to think I'm some freak?
Yeah, exactly.
As bizarre as that sounds, like when I first was saying about when I first got back into the hobby, it was actually my partner at the time who kind of pushed me back into it, and I was really like on edge. Like if I go in there and I like actually, she can see how excited I am and how much I really like this and love it. Is she going to suddenly be like, yeah, I don't want to be with you anymore. You're weird.
Well, exactly. It's like...
That's the thought process I had, and eventually she was like, don't be silly, because she's a massive reader. She's read like 40 something books this year alone. It's unbelievable. Like every day she's like, starting a new book today. I was like, you only started one the other day. But that's her hobby. I back her with that.
Exactly.
She backs me with mine. And if you've got someone like that behind you, you can be a nerd and sit in your bedroom painting, and
such is the power of a hobby.
Yeah. Like just do what you want.
Do what brings you joy. As long as it doesn't harm other people.
Yeah.
Just got to kind of caveat it
with
alone.
That.
Yeah, just don't hurt other people.
Yeah, sort of robbing people for their miniatures and stuff. Don't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if it gets that far, then stop. When the fun stops, stop. Warhammer is equally as addictive.
That is
right. Fantastic. Right. Eavy Mental Ealth, thank you so much for joining me, having this discussion. Really appreciate your points of view, and you sharing your experiences so candidly as well. If there's one thing that you want people to kind of leave this podcast with, what would that be? This is a really strange, just not quote, but something that I kind of try to live by. And do you know Joe Wicks? Yes.
The food guy, the fitness guy.
Mm-hmm.
He, for a long time, was always going around saying a saying of, be nice, have fun, work hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I always try to kind of stick to, because I feel like there's three main aspects of your life there, working hard at something, being beneficial and doing something good with your career or whatever, having fun. Obviously, life is very serious, so just make sure to have as much fun as you can while you're here, and being nice.
Yeah.
It's simple, do you know what I mean? You don't know what someone else is going through. It could be the worst day of their life, and you might be the only person that you bump into. And if you can smile or say hello walking down the street, which is a really rare thing nowadays.
I know, right?
You walk through, I've been to London a few times and other cities and bits, and it's just glued to the phones, just beeline, going wherever they want, and it's like, we're all on the same planet here, but we can't even say hello to each other.
It's really weird, because I work in London, and when I go into London, don't really talk to anyone, not even a how are you, hi, oh, have a good day kind of thing. But I live in a small little market town, right? And I can say it to other people. I will stop and have a chat with somebody, and we'll just get talking about something. But it's just, strange. Like in the city, everything is so fast paced.
It's just mad, isn't it?
It doesn't need to be.
No, just everything can slow down and be more relaxed and still operate as it does.
Yeah.
And I probably sound like a big stoner now. Just sitting there, man.
Whoa,
but
okay.
That's it really. And one other thing that I just want to say as well is that I was scrolling through online earlier today and saw some stats for suicide in the UK rates, and it really shocked me. Like, even just talking about it now gets me a bit like emotional about it, because I think it was on average every year there's about 5,500 suicides in the UK. It's 15 a day.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I tried to name 15 people that I know on a personal level, and all of a sudden that number becomes very big. It seems like a lot of people, and I just think this needs to be, that has to come down.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what you're going through, that is a ridiculous number. And like I say, if you were to sit there and try and name 15 people now that you know on a really close level, it really hits home. So yeah, that is just talk to people, be nice, and you never know, you might really help someone. So
yeah.
That's what I'm going to end on.
Absolutely. I will put some links into the description on this, so that you can kind of reach out to somewhere that can help you. But then also you do a lot of fundraising, right?
Yeah, I try to do some charity stuff for Calm. They're one of my most favourable charities that kind of help people. You've got Mind as well, and there's loads of charities out there that try and offer help to people and need money to operate, because there's people on helplines 24/7 that that 1 minute phone call could help someone, save someone. But yeah, I tried to. Me and my partner recently climbed up Snowdon. We hated it.
God.
And that was kind of a charity thing. I didn't really push it too hard. But yeah, it's something that I definitely want to get going in the future and try and raise some money for charities that are doing good things and helping people.
Yeah,
it's so important.
Absolutely. We'll put a link in the description as well around kind of some places that you can donate. So
Perfect.
If you have even £1 to spare, then absolutely,
it
they
all
would
goes a long way. Yeah,
greatly appreciate it to try and tackle some of these really tough stats that are out there with the suicide rates. Right?
Yeah, it's mad. Absolutely mad.
Thank you so much for joining again. Where can people find you if they want to find you?
So basically just Instagram. That's probably the only platform that I'm really kind of that active on. Heavy Mental Health, just drop the H's and underscores in between each word. So Eavy_mental_health.
Nice.
That is it. Same on Twitch. I'm looking at potentially going into streaming, maybe.
Ooh.
I used to do it in the past with gaming and stuff, but it's up in the air at the minute. Maybe some painting streams and bits in the future, but cool. Yeah, definitely Instagram, that's the one.
Just some real kind of virtual hobby hangs.
Yes, yeah. Get some people chatting and make some new friends and bits.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been so good talking to you. I'll put all the links to everything in the description of how to find you. And just leave it with the fact that whatever you are doing today, whatever that might be, if you are listening on the train or on the bus, whatever you are doing, be considerate of others and just ask them how they are. And whatever you're doing, just keep it positive.